Accounting and audit firms play a very important, Accounting and audit firms play a very important role in the success of many businesses. They provide financial reporting, corporate governance guidance, and business advice. But what will the landscape look like in 10 years from now? Please join Ms. Natasha Harris, CEO of Victory Finances LLC, and Tennile Parades, CEO of TEAL Business Services, as they express their views on the topic, how accounting and audit firms are meeting the needs of tomorrow's businesses. Thank you.
Hi, and thank you. Yes, so us as accounting and tax firms, we play a pivotal role. So Tennile, let's introduce you and see what you do.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tennile Parades. I'm the CEO of TEAL Business Services. We're like a one-stop shop accounting firm and finance. Virtual CFO is our biggest package. We help entrepreneurs from the startup phase all the way through growth. We do strategizing, back-end bookkeeping, tax strategies, and teach corporate and financial literacy as well.
I love it. So we're practically twins, you guys. Natasha Harris of Victory Finances, where we do very similar, but our focus is for our small business owners, their cleanups. So those financial mishaps that happen, sales tax, forgetting to open that business bank account, commingling. So we focus on the financial mess of it to get them more compliant. So that's what we do. So what would you say our industry's looking for what we do for over the next 10 years?
I see a big change as far as my clients are concerned, where like manufacturing companies are down. It's more service-based industry. There's a lot of entrepreneurs and freelance workers now compared to before, where most clients were firms and everybody worked for someone else. More people are trying to work for themselves and trying to navigate that field. There's a lot of prepayment happening that people don't like, getting a large lump sum of money up front and trying to handle that without knowledge of taxes and what implications that can have. Yeah. So we try to guide them through all of that.
Awesome. Yeah, so prepaids are a big thing. I know we'd had a situation in unrecognized revenues and when to recognize it. Now I'd say that also would be a big indication of the payment method. And the speaker before us just talked about the variety of payments that are available. So I would say we have to also keep up on top of that compliance wise, because if you're anything like me, I get frustrated with some Zelle process. I get frustrated with the Zelle transactions.
And then, people have different, with so many variety of payment plans. So there's the Zelle versus PayPal, and trying to get the companies to settle in on one bank account. So there's not 800 different accounts to go through to reconcile. Is a big thing. But with technology growing and different options out there, people are like taking everything on instead of researching and narrowing it down.
Right. So not only the different forms of payment method and then into the crypto as payment options, we learned, was it Monday, that they're trying to get gold backed,
right,
as a method of payment, but then that to pay with the gold and pay taxes with gold, you need to earn gold. So yeah, we gotta keep up with all the forms of money and then turn all the transactions into the financial information necessary for each business for them to make the best decision for their business. So if I get a restaurant, like I'm accepting gold now.
Right. I think everybody should at this point.
We gotta know what's going on. Like, okay, here's some gold for my hot dog.
It's one of the most stable forms of payment at this time. Given the climate, the world's economy, everything is up and down, and trying to maintain compliance and keep up with the trends and which currency is up, which currency is down, which cryptocurrency has folded, which cryptocurrency is new and valid, and then the regulations that happen and are attached to all of these forms of payment. Because each one is monitored by a different government agency, and then trying to get them all compliance together.
It is. So you see, we got it rough. So love your accountant, tax preparer. Love all your tax person this year, guys. Yeah, because it becomes a lot. So with the forms of payments that we have to have that understanding, we also need to know how it best applies to our businesses.
Correct.
Right. So what are some of your struggles with those best applications with where our businesses are trying to go in their specific lane to have to navigate the payment side and what's best for them and compliance between all the laws that regulate banking to gold to.
Right. It's trying to figure out each industry, which form of payment would be better, because if you're like cash-based business like cosmetology, I would recommend different like PayPal because their reporting is better. It's structured where it supports the consumer and your business. But other industries, depending, it's like, hey, just get a business bank account, stick to the old fashioned checks. It's compliant. Everything's in one spot. You don't have to worry about looking for anything. And basically, it's not like there's no one size fits all for each industry. And depending on the industry, the advice varies.
Right, because we're all very different, and that falls into the diversification of each industry, each person. I jumped over to education, and they were talking about diversification happening internally in a person and then externally. So I love that. So that applies to products varieties, to service varieties, and what we need to be able to do for our people or for our clients. So many options. Yeah, we have to narrow it down to what is best for that specific client. Now, sometimes they don't listen.
A lot of times they don't. One thing my husband always says, which I tell to my clients, that growth is in the uncomfortability. And if I'm your friend at all times, I'm not doing my job well.
Yes, you have a love-hate relationship. One of my clients, shout out, you know who you are. He calls me a bully every day. It's like, she's a bully.
Right.
We get it done. You're gonna grow. We're gonna get through this.
Exactly. Follow the plan and stick to it. And in the end, you'll love me. But during the process, you might hate me some days. That's okay.
Right.
I see major trends, especially with the generation coming up, who are my most hard-headed clients.
I was just getting ready to say that for the younger generations coming in. So my 16-year-old just graduated from a business institute, and he's got a whole plan for a food truck. So shout out Business Mastery Institute and shout out Black Mastermind. So now his hard-headed self doesn't like numbers either, but understands the necessity. So then he's going to have to learn. But yeah, they're the younger generation, all the tech savviness, all the
instant gratification. They want it now. They don't want to work for it to see it later. They don't want to wait for payments to clear. It's like, I did the job. My money should be here now. And a lot of them are coming into large sums really quickly. And they're missing the guidance on what to do with this money, how to save this money, where to invest this money, what I have to pay to the government for earning this money,
right.
How I'm supposed to track this money, how not to mix my personal money with my business money.
That's a big one.
Right.
That is such a big one.
So many clients come and, I'll see, I went to the club last night and I got 4 bottles, but this is your business account. Or is there a client there? What is happening?
Why? No, they can't keep doing that. But it does, but it plays an important role on making sure that we're keeping up with that. So there's a lot of education that has to go forward with it, because finances is a foreign language to a lot of people, especially with our current demographic is majority, the minority and underserved community. So there's a lot of stigma behind that. So yeah, a lot of financial education has to happen first to get them into compliance and the vision that they see for their organization.
We call it advisory, but more than half of our job is actually educating our clients on what's going on, what's happening, what you're supposed to do, the laws we have to know and be up to date on, as well as the trends, and be able to interpret that information. Because there's plenty of fintech out there that will help people, like QuickBooks and other platforms. But if you still don't know what those reports mean or how to interpret those numbers, it's not really going to help you. So you're still going to have to.
I got QuickBooks, like you said. A lot of people set it up. They're like, I got it, but I have no idea how to use it. And then I don't want to get a professional because they're expensive. But then without even just a little bit of that education, because that's some of what we do. We provide a best practices for this software. If you are at a place of DIY right now, this is how you would maneuver that for now.
Correct.
Once you hit once you hit a threshold, you need some more information or to delegate that, because you don't want to continue to be a solopreneur or just self-employed.
Right.
So for your people, are you implementing things like books available or courses or curriculum to hit on that education before they get to you, in a sense of like, okay, I do have this bit of understanding because that's what it takes. So even if it's, with TikTok being entertainment, like how do you make accounting and all that entertaining and educational? It's not entertaining, it's got to be educational.
Right. So we have resources that I provide from other external people, like NOLO books are put everything in layman's terms, and it helps explain to people. I also have resources that I created, and I have a curriculum that I created one for teens, one for adults, and one for corporations. So it'll teach your internal staff financial literacy on the corporate side and compliance, and also your employees will teach them about the 401ks and things that you're offering your company, your employees, that a lot of people go into blindly. Like, my company offered 401k, so I accepted it, but I have no idea what it is.
Right. We get a lot of that too. So with some of the tax strategy that I help clients implement, they're like, oh, I don't need stock market, or I've got a 401k. Well, your 401k is in a stock market. So let me help you. Let me educate you in that area. Because it is, you get into employment and you're like, oh, my employer is just going to do it all for me. But COVID taught us a lesson about that. Employment can disappear real fast. So then people started venturing into entrepreneurship and solopreneurship with just an LLC and no business bank account, and getting that commingling. And then they get letters from the IRS or Department of Revenue or Department of Labor. And then they come to us freaking out.
Yeah, that's when the panic sets in and my phone goes crazy. And it's like, why didn't you call me before this?
That's the goal, right?
But yes, people, especially after COVID, when the boom happened for entrepreneurship, it was a lot of cleanup. So I know that's when your business.
You're like, bring it. I will take a box of receipts. Give it here.
Like, I've had clients come to me like, I started my business in 2017, but I never filed anything. Was I supposed to?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Answer across the board is yes. Any business activity is reported.
Correct. And people don't know that. And they're like, well, I didn't really make a lot of money, so I figured I didn't have to tell anybody. Like, the IRS wants to know every dollar, every penny.
So I'm like, I can tell you right now, you at least pay $50 for your LLC, and that counts.
That's a write-off.
That counts. Oh, so yeah. But it is, but with, the educating, having to keep compliant, but also keep up with it's my business, my reports. What does this even mean? Like, how we've got to stay on top of that. So what are some things you think we've got to make adjustments for now for those younger tech savvy generation?
I think fintech is going to be the biggest. I know I pay a tremendous amount in software every year to try to keep up with the automation systems, getting reports out to clients. It's really the instant gratification with the new generation, and we have to change to adapt to that. A lot of people are like, in our field, it's, 30 days and then you get your return. That's how the process takes, because we have to go through this and have to go through teams and we have to investigate states. And the younger generation moves way faster than we do.
Right. You got to keep up. Well, because it makes me think, we were talking about mentorship yesterday, and especially for women in finance, because there aren't any, right? So we're automatic best friends now, because we just met each other and we're like, automatic best friends. You're women in finance, I'm women in finance, let's go. But you think of the older generation in finance right now is starting to try to retire. And some might not even have that plan or hopes of selling the business or hoping their children without having groomed the legacy there. So I'd almost say, if you're an older male in finance looking to retire, you might want to mentor mentor some younger generation to pass that down so your clients aren't left in the wind. So recently, actually, in our community, one of the CPAs had passed, and then his assistants wound up just giving the clients their box of information and was like, "Here you go."
Honestly,
and it's like, oh my gosh, like my tax person of 20 years just passed, and now there's that panic of building the new relationship. Yeah. So I think there has to be some legacy as well for the older generations, because the up and coming.
I was one of those up and coming when I first started. My first tax clients were my grandparents' accountant. He planned to pass down his business to his son, who decided he didn't want to go into accounting. And when he turned 75, he was like, I'm done with this. And he realized that, talking to my grandparents, I stopped coming to him to get my taxes done. Mm-hmm. And I was doing it myself. And at that moment, I was working for H&R Block. And he was like, stop working for them. Here's a client list.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, wow, thank you. But then it was like, I was thrown into the deep end. And
right, but you learn in that uncomfortable situations, like
right, because it was like half the clients, stayed, and the other half were like, well, I'm used to an older male. Who is this young woman?
Right. So that's why the mentorship's important, because you have to have that introduction as well, so that it's warm and comforting, because finances are a sensitive subject.
They are.
It almost feels like financial therapy. Sometimes I'm not a financial therapist. It feels like that sometimes because of what you have to hit on, right. and some of the.
I always say, if you don't change your mindset or your relationship with money, all the knowledge in the world isn't going to help you.
Right. That's so written, because finances are relationship.
It's definitely a relationship.
So I have a phrase. So I tell my clients, don't let your money have a side chick. Like,
I like that one.
You can use it. But it is about having that mentorship and that relational building along the way before he'd gone out, just so they didn't feel thrown to the wolves as well. Because that's a little, because then the trust,
you have to build the trust.
You have to have
all
the trust,
of anybody in your finance team, your legal team. Those relationships are important, because you have to trust that person. You're very vulnerable with your finance person. You have to open up, and they see everything. And if you don't have the trust factor, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to listen to them. Those are the clients that are going to be hard-headed and do what they want because they think they know better, or they found something on TikTok or Google.
Like the younger generation coming in is like, well, I saw this on YouTube and this, and it's like, yeah, but that's not everything. Exactly. So let's sit down for a second and talk through this.
I get inboxed or emailed TikTok videos all the time. Is this true? Can you explain it? And I'm like, it's true, but you're missing factors that go along with it. For this to work, you need a credit score of at least 750 and some capital to start with.
And the documentation behind it to make it sure, because that should have been implemented January 1 versus December 20th.
You can't start your LLC in December 28th and try to write all $30,000 per year. It's not going to work.
Not going to work. So, like that fast version, the quick money, the too much money don't know how to handle it, right? So it's almost like a passing of the baton right now, especially like for us, because we fall in that middle genre of some boomers, and then you got Zoomers coming, right? I'm raising Zoomers right now, So it's like in that we really have to get that education in there.
Yes.
Otherwise, they are going to go to YouTube University to figure out some things, and then come to us panicked.
Right. There are resources out there that I push. There's like nonprofits. There are courses that will teach the youth, and I think financial literacy is really big. Hopefully, it gets implemented in the core curriculum at some point in the United States.
Right. We got to push and lobby for that.
Yes. I feel strongly on that, because that is what's missing. I think that is the core thing that the generation coming up needs. They're getting money fast. They're going into fields and services, starting businesses blindly.
Yeah.
And they need the guidance. And I feel like our generation needs to just grab any youth that you can and teach them.
Right.
From our mistakes. Because a lot of us went into everything blindly and had to learn the hard way.
Right. So then 10 years from now, as the IRS hires all these fresh youngins looking to make a name for themselves, that was mentioned earlier, coming in, that pendulum's now swinging out to get you. So I'd almost say 10 years from now, I need more cleanup firms.
More than likely, yes. There will be a lot of cleanup that needs to happen 10 years from now, especially when the IRS starts backtracking. And because they can go back 7 to 10 years. And when they start coming for everybody, all the new companies that are now forming and all the money that's now coming into pockets, and you see the shift and change and how the under marginalized communities are getting large sums of money now that they're not used to getting. The government is definitely going to come.
Right. So then not just the compliance, right?
Right.
Those payment methods
methods.
coming in, guilty till proven innocent with the IRS
Definitely.
is where it's at. So the changes it's more so implementation of making sure that education is there.
Correct.
And keeping up with the youngins while also seeking the mentorship with the older generation to fill in that gap to be able to suit both young and old, because that's the blend of what's out
the
there
whole circle.
in the whole circle. Because you've got retirees looking like, oh, I'm bored, I don't want to be a Walmart greeter.
Correct.
I've been told I should write a book.
Right.
And then they start writing a book, get it published. They hit 100,000 in a month. Now they're like, oh shoot.
Now what?
Now what do I do? So yeah, just keeping up with those trends, being able to adjust and provide those services needed.
Correct.
In an advisory hand-holding way, because even for some of our clients, we've been on a journey with them for I've got one that's at 3 years now. And just to see that growth of what's possible is amazing.
And it's like the transition. A lot of people don't understand that going from the W-2 employee to being retired to, I'm going to write a book. Now that's revenue, and you're basically a solopreneur, because that's now a business revenue and company. And a lot of people don't know how to navigate that transition because they're not used to it. They're used to, I get a W-2, I fill out the 1040 with the numbers on the W-2, and that's it. But now there's like Schedule C's and you have to itemize, and they're not used to that. And that's where we come in, the hand holding, explaining to them the difference, because that a lot of people push back, like, why are my tax returns so complicated now? Like, I made the same amount of money, but you made it in a different way. And people don't realize it's not always how much money you make, but how you make it. That counts.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely right. And then not to mention the IRS code is really written to incentivize investors and business owners in the first place.
Right.
So the amount of strategies to use to earn, protect, and maneuver legally is out there, right? Right. Doesn't full disclosure, it's legally done.
Yeah, it can be hard to explain sometimes to clients. So resources, I always give a handout, look, and I always leave a screenshot from the IRS website. Like, I didn't make this up. This is the law. I know it sounds weird, but it's the law.
It's the law, yeah. So we have to cater to both sides while being tech savvy for our business owners to even succeed in over the next 10 years.
Yeah. And you have to be tech savvy as well as forward facing, trendy. And it's hard.
It is, guys. It's so hard. How many of you have that struggle, like being tech savvy and still doing what you do?
Yeah, I go through so much software reviews a week. It's insane. But there's so many platforms out there, trying to find the best one that suits your client's needs. Because a lot of times I notice the ones that are easier for me are difficult for the client. And the ones that are easy for the client drive me insane.
Right. So we gotta have that balance. But it is just trying to just even stay one step, 2 steps ahead or available to our client base to help them pursue and fulfill their dreams and goals,
right,
while staying compliant and being able to live their best life or build the life of their dreams.
Exactly.
And
we do the back end so that you can do what you're good at and what you love to do.
Right. Because nobody likes numbers.
I
but
do.
us,
Right.
right? Nobody likes that. How many of you guys in the audience like numbers?
I
How
like numbers.
How many of you guys like numbers? I see one hand, right? And we're a whole finance and law.
Counting money. Everybody likes that part.
Everybody likes money, but I'm saying knowing what your money's doing. Just I saw one hand,
Right.
and we're a finance and law. He must be in law. Just kidding. So yeah. So do you see industry wise, some of the key parts we might need to look for? I know the banking aspect is a big
Definitely.
thing for the payment processing. And
Payment
forms.
processing is definitely a big thing to look at. Circling back, fintech, and basically reaching people. So all of those, like marketing has changed. The way
YouTube. Hey YouTube.
right. YouTube, Instagram, hi. It used to be, you run an ad on television, newspaper. That's not reaching people the way it is now. But even if you put the ad on social media, on YouTube, if you're not trendy or hip, you're not reaching anybody. And especially with the new generation up and coming and 10 years out from now, they're looking for what's popping, what's trendy, what's hip, what's viral, basically.
And I think we have to let them know too, you have to be long standing at the same time. So that's where our CFO advisory comes in, because we have to know the marketing and sales side to be able to translate. These are your revenue drivers. This is how the data translates here. This is what needs to be in place here for you to do stuff over here.
Right. If you grow here, cut back here, you'll do better in the end.
I know, but they forget about that part. I know a lot of clients come in and they're like, I want funding. And I'm like, that's great.
Right.
Do you know how to make a sale?
Nope.
How are you going to pay the funding back?
Exactly.
Because it has to be paid back.
And my favorite one is, I'm going to start a business. Where's your business plan? I need one of those. What is your budget?
What's a budget?
Right. I didn't make any money yet, but you still need a budget. You have to pay to start the company.
Right.
But again, people don't have this knowledge and they need to.
Right. The education. So we put on some workshops, very similar. We did one for veteran entrepreneurs earlier this year, and that was amazing. And she asked a beautiful question. She was like, of all these numbers, what should I actually keep track of? And I'm like, you're probably going to be surprised at what my answer is going to be. But I truly believe if you really track your goals as the business owner, right? Because we don't want them, we're not teaching and educating them to do what we do. That's why we do it.
Right.
You just need to know if you've hit what you're going for, right? So what are some of the crazy goals some of your clients have set?
I want to do $1 million in sales my first year. Okay. Well, what is your business? Well, I want to sell t-shirts. Okay. Well, what kind of t-shirts? I don't know yet. So you just want to sell $1 million in t-shirts. And I'm supposed to help this happen. Do you have a plan? Do you even know where you're getting your equipment from? Do you have any equipment? No. But I want to sell $1 million in t-shirts this year.
Right. And like we as CFOs have to be so diverse to understand and communicate that part, right? Because not only do we know the financials, but yeah, the sales side of this, there's some thought that has to go into it. So we have to almost be borderline creative with nerdy financials to keep up with the trends, right?
Yeah, it's just that people come so unprepared, and it's like a lot of people have the big idea, and we have to help navigate them to get from point A to point B, because they don't know how to connect those dots. They just know, I want to do this and I want to earn this amount of money. But nobody knows the steps that go involved to getting there, the back end, the compliance, the budgeting, the forecasting. And that's a big part in your business.
Building the teams, putting people in place to sales processes and operations strategy within that. So it is quite a bit to have to be on top of for everybody, right? Because we have to do that for them
And ourselves.
and be tech savvy and compliant and XYZ. So, and we love what we do.
Yes.
We
I do.
love what
I
we do.
especially love when your client reaches that goal and they come back and they're like, I know we had a battle back and forth and
I know I said I hate you. Thank you. So thank you very much. I know I hate you, but I love you right now.
Right.
Tomorrow I'll probably hate you again.
Again, yes.
Because now that you've hit that,
Right.
let's
talk about how you're gonna cut next year.
yeah, right? You gotta increase next year. So
Well.
what's the strategy there? Oh man. So funny. So for the younger people, what would you say to focus on now? Like my 16-year-old, I tell him just educate.
Yes. I have a 21-year-old who's luckily will be my legacy, who works for me. And I tell him, his friends, when they come to me, educate yourself. Do not use social media to get your education. Go to reliable sources. Pick up a book the old-fashioned way.
Pick up a book.
And build your team with people you trust. People who strengths are your weaknesses. You don't need someone that is equally yoked with you. You need someone to fill in the gaps.
That's so good. That is so good. Because that's the relational part of it, right?
Yes.
So, like, shout out to my assistant, love you, blessing. Even for my outfit today, she was like, no, you need to wear blue. I'm tired of you wearing black and white. So
Assistants
she's
are
got
the
that
best.
creative fashion to complement what where I'm weak, but it works. And we have to be vulnerable enough to admit that. And so many of us get into entrepreneurship thinking you have to do
everything on
everything.
your own.
You have to hold on to everything because nobody else knows. Well, that's what like minds are important.
Correct.
So important.
Yeah. Like minds are important, but so is diverse thinking. Because you need someone to give you a different perspective. Because sometimes you're so stuck in your box that you're not seeing the whole picture. That's why we're shouting out assistants. Destiny is amazing.
Hey, Destiny,
My
you're amazing
assistant,
too.
She literally is my opposite, and it works so well. Because wherever I lack, she picks up the slack. And she gave me my little 5-minute pet talk before we got up here too.
Nice. Shout out, Destiny. I love it. So, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say she's one in the younger generation also, where I say building your team and like-minded people and people with diverse things. I'm way older than I'm almost old enough to be her mom. So when I'm trying to talk to my younger clients or I need a different perspective on how to reach somebody, she's a good person, the thought person, the soundboard that I can bounce ideas off of. And that's a great aspect in team building.
Yeah, some of my kids like, Mom, how are you young and old at the same time? And I'm like, really? I don't know. I just make it work.
Right.
I have to, right? Because we've got the older genre of what we do, and then we've got the up and coming of what we do. Like we said, we gotta be that sweet spot, our special sauce, right? Our special sauce to be able to maneuver both and adapt, but still communicate to either side effectively, so they implement and do what we say, because we know what we're talking about.
Exactly. You want to open up a question?
Yeah, so we've got a little bit of time. You guys want to open it for questions? Anybody got some questions? Oh, I see a question.
Hello. So the question I have is that with the younger generation right now, everybody sees on social media that, like you were saying, like about the T-shirt company, like just get that great idea and you'll become a millionaire with your T-shirt, your makeup, your fragrance, like whatever. So the example that I give is a friend of mine in Chicago. They just legalized cannabis, and he got one of the first licenses to be able to sell, to be a retailer, without thinking through and knowing the capital that he was actually going to need. So that he went through this very cumbersome, complicated system to get the license and everything like that. And then now it's like, oh no, I need $10 million. Like literally, you know what I mean? And that's what I find with the problem with social media is that people make it look so like just start your own this, that, or whatever. And even Amazon kind of promotes that. Like you can start your own shop within that and, become whatever. So yeah, again, like the balancing act that must be difficult. Because the other thing too, and we've talked about this before, is that in this country, we are not raised to save money. We're not taught about money necessarily in schools. That kind of stuff we all sort of find out the hard way. So what is the best advice you would give to somebody who maybe is an entrepreneur and doesn't do the whole like 5-year business plan? Like what advice would you give to try to guide them towards that, to look at the big picture as opposed to, I'm going to sell t-shirts, I'm going to make all this money?
So I feel like that's a good start. Like it always is an idea.
Right.
But I always advise to run it by somebody else who's done it successfully. Okay, so that goes to some of the mentorship we've talked about before, but he's got to physically find somebody successful and say, hey, I have this idea. Do you mind sharing how you came to be?
Right.
People like talking about themselves, so it would be easy. Yeah. So then that would give him an understanding, because I feel entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart, because we're the innovators, the creators. Like it's one business after another. Yeah. I got one of my coaches. I've now called him my doula, because it's like I birth businesses every time I talk to him. But yeah, so run it by somebody who's successful and seeking that mentorship, being in the industry, 20 some odd years. So even when I started my business, I actually wound up going back to the company that fired me and asked for advice, because I took an L, but I handled it well.
Right.
To ask in this area, and then the idea came to birth this.
Right.
And I think not only reaching out to someone successful, but reaching out to a professional accountant or financial advisor.
Yeah.
Because if you're not good at that part, the back end, and connecting those dots in the business plan, you can find someone who can do it for you and will walk you through it and teach you how to do it yourself, or do it for you if you're not interested in doing that part at all.
Right.
So you can reach out to someone like Natasha or myself or another company, and we would do that back end for you, because it still needs to be done. Because if you want to raise capital for this company or anything, you're going to need the proper paperwork in order.
Right. Yeah, because I'll be honest with you, at this point, I don't even know what he's promising these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because then that industry itself is very dicey, especially when it comes to banking and payment. The payment side is going to be the struggle.
Well, that was the surprise he ran into, because at the federal level, cannabis is technically illegal. At the local level, it's legal. So banks are not willing to finance because, at the federal level, it's illegal, So that's, and so he was counting on I'll just go to the bank, get the loan, whatever. And then the banks were like, yeah, we don't really do business that way. Yeah.
He's actually got to seek out investors.
Right. So if you want to invest in a cannabis industry in Chicago, come see me.
I don't know. That's a fine line.
Yeah, I know.
To my husband right there.
That's a fine line.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any more questions? I think that's it. We're good. Awesome. Thank you, guys. This has been a pleasure.